From Florida's capital, this is Power Play.
The clock winds down on the '08 legislative session. Will Florida have a national model energy policy? Governor Crist flexes muscle to cover Florida in his health care plan. And will Floridians vote to tax swap this November property tax for a sales tax? All that on Power Play with our guest, two bureau chiefs, John Kennedy of the Orlando Sentinel and Paul Fleming of Gannett News Service. Let's begin with this energy comprehensive plan that's working its way through the session. Where will it put Florida on the national map?
Well, it's definitely has elements to it that are a model for other states. It is built on, and Governor Crist's idea is built on California model, but establishing emission standards, conservation standards, and that's one of the things that is still up to negotiation. The House and Senate differ on where to set those goals. But more importantly than the green elements, and the governor would say that these are green elements, but perhaps more for all of us to consider is what it would do for nuclear plant regulation and transmission line regulation, make things easier for power companies to establish those plants and lines regulatorily.
And the biggest thing missing is the green. Governor Crist wanted more than $200 million in this program, and because of the bad budget year, it's going to be scaled down like dramatically.
So the green won't be from money, but we'll still be considered one of the greener states through
we'll get
leadership.
A little more green. We'll get a little more green somehow, but it'll be sort of on a bootstrap, sort of each individual kind of program will be forced to try to find its way within the Department of Environmental Protection and try to impose some of these standards. And then also there'll be an effort to try to get some grant money out there as well, but it's going to be much more modest than what Governor Crist wanted.
Well, it is a tough money year, but the governor fighting hard for his Cover Florida health care plan. Where's that heading?
Well, that's a money issue as well, as is everything this session with the budget situation. The governor's plan differs from the House plan, which was passed this week, or yeah, it would count as last week early morning passed as the House was going at things hammer and tong. It's not funded. The House version sets up more of a bureaucracy, and the governor works more with private industry to offer options to the uninsured.
Yeah, I think something's going to happen out of this. I mean, the two sides are pretty far apart right now, where the Senate has agreed with Governor Crist. The House is going its way. But I think both sides seem to look at this as a good political issue. This is something that takes, to some degree, the plight of 3.8 million uninsured Floridians off the table for the November elections. At least that's how the Republicans see it.
Perhaps one of the only good news stories coming out of this session, if it happens.
Yeah. John makes a good point, though, is everything in this session is not only about the budget, but about it being an election year.
Well, religion raising its head as the session winds to a close in two ways, on an evolution teaching bill and perhaps with a Christian license tag. What are those two things about if they're related?
The election in November.
Yeah, that's the election.
But we're back. We're speaking on Friday, and I believe the Senate will take up the evolution bill today. Is that correct, John? And I don't know how that's going to go over there. You'll have to put your name on the board and stand one way or the other.
Yeah, that's one of those bills that, you know, depending on one's perspective, this is either a backdoor effort to try to start teaching scientific design and, you know, raising questions about evolution, bring creationism back into the classroom, or it's all about protecting teachers and allowing, you know, free speech in classrooms.
And the Christian license tag, I believe, what about that?
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I think that again, is just something that is to put it out there to make people put a vote on it. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere this year.
And yet the sponsor said he would oppose an atheist license tag that said,
exactly.
I don't believe.
Right.
Okay, heading into November, the voters are going to have an opportunity to vote to reduce property taxes further in a sales tax swap. How will that work, John?
Well, the idea is that voters will get a choice to say, you know, for or against, and again, you need 60% for approval, but do you want to remove about 25% of your property taxes, the required local effort that is imposed by school districts on property owners in their counties, remove that in exchange for a 1 cent sales tax increase, and then perhaps other increases to cover what amounts to about a $9.4 billion loss in revenue due to that change. It's a big question. The business community is very opposed to it because of its potential for leading to, as critics say, another services tax, or taxes imposed on industries that are currently exempt. So it's been a battle that the legislative leaders are trying to push back against.
Very attractive to voters, but is it good policy, Paul?
Well, that depends. Many of the things that John said included the words could, may, perhaps, and that's because it will be implemented by the legislature. And indeed, it would take out the required local effort and cut property taxes. What that would be replaced with remains to be seen. There are these options offered in the proposal that voters will look at that could be a sales tax increase, but it's unknown exactly what that will be.
I think we're going to see a fierce advertising campaign coming up on that as well, you know, toward the fall elections.
All right, last week of session coming up. Power plays of the week. Paul?
Well, I'm going to go with I'm going to say Ron Book and Guy Spearman made a power play today. Yes, sir, that's right. They took another swing of the bat with their legal challenge to the gift ban implemented by former Senate President Tom Lee, and got it back to the Florida Supreme Court and will live another day to argue against that legislation.
Okay, John, you?
I'll say the Florida Hospital Association and Mary Ellen Ross, who is the leader of the Florida Transplant Survivors Coalition. They pressed very hard to get money taken out of the Lawton Childs Endowment for bringing back the medically needy program in the state. This is a program that serves about 20,000 people, many of them transplant survivors, and it was on the chopping block this year. But legislative leaders agreed to take $300 million out of the Childs Endowment, and medically needy lives.
So, power plays, unelected folks. Flex the muscle this week. John Kennedy, Paul Fleming, thank you. Go to the Safety Review for the latest political news, and we'll see you next week on Power Play.